All right, so I'll go ahead and share my screen. All right, so today we are going to talk a little bit about Zoom. So in this session, we are actually going to be doing kind of an overview of Zoom. So what I'll be doing is doing kind of a basics, a basic overview of some of the tools you may already be familiar with. And then we're really going to get into some of the more complex tools. This session will be covering a lot. So if you are not 100%, like if you feel like you're behind other people, don't worry too much about that. We will have the opportunity
to attend this webinar. Did you say?
We will have the opportunity at a later date to do more in-depth sessions. So with that, I'll go ahead and get started. So I'm going to introduce myself first. So my name is Nicole. I am the Education and Training Coordinator with Florida Literacy Coalition. So I've been facilitating online sessions for about 7 years now through my entire role here at FLC. I've executed conferences over Zoom and institutes. And before the pandemic, we were using Citrix, which if any of you know what Citrix is, it's GoToWebinar, GoToMeeting, kind of those kinds of things. So once Zoom was introduced during the pandemic, I use air quotes because it wasn't actually introduced during the pandemic. Zoom has been around for a pretty long time. In fact, when I first started my job, we were looking into Zoom to use, but it just wasn't quite sophisticated enough at the time. So Zoom is just the easiest platform to use, in my opinion. It is the most user-friendly for both the presenters and the people who are attending the sessions, or in your case, for the teachers and students, it is just the simplest tool, and everyone's most used to it right now. Also, a little bit about me personally. I am a hiker. I like to go hiking in the nice months. I haven't been hiking for about 3 or 4 months, but we'll get started once the weather hits about 80 degrees, then we start going hiking again. And I'm a big scary movie fan, you know, love October. That's my husband and I at Halloween Horror Nights. And we are huge fans of that. So here is our agenda for today. So today we're going to be doing a quick introduction, getting to know you all, what your comfort level is with Zoom. And then we're going to be learning the tools. So we'll be going over each tool, and I will ask you to use the tools that I'm referencing. So almost every tool in here you should have access to. Some things we won't be modeling, some things you won't be using, like the polling feature. You won't be using, you will be responding to polling features, but as attendees for a session, you cannot use them. And we also, just for the sake of, you know, not having too many people doing too many things at once, we won't be doing screen sharing with everyone. Although when we get into the breakout groups, then we can start, you know, playing around with screen sharing a little bit. But as a big group, just let's not screen share. We'll just all kind of keep our hands off that green button while we're in the big group. So the next things that we'll be doing is troubleshooting. Troubleshooting is probably the most frustrating thing. I understand, I've been there, is trying to troubleshoot this session, or trying to troubleshoot Zoom for a session for somebody on the other side of the screen. It's difficult, even for somebody who's a seasoned IT professional. My husband is in IT, and I just had to call him this morning saying that one of my screens was off center. So, you know, I had to put him on a video call just so he can kind of walk me through that. But there are some basic things that you can do to help your learners throughout the process and help your students. You're not going to be able to get into their computer. You're not going to be able to know exactly, you know, what system they have or this or that. But what you can do is you can know some of the more common problems that arise, and you can help try to head those off in the beginning, or you can know a quick response or a workaround. After that, we're going to do a quick interest poll. I'm going to take the temperature of the room and see if people are pretty comfortable with Zoom, or if you're not comfortable with Zoom, what specific areas of Zoom we could work on together. My idea is to do maybe a smaller group after this, and for those that are not comfortable with certain aspects of Zoom, and really do a deep dive into specific aspects, making you the co-host. So right now I made Maria a co-host. So she has certain abilities and she's already using them because I know Maria already teaches online. So, so that's my idea moving forward with this. We have a question in the chat. Can we get a hard copy of this info? Absolutely. I'll be sending this to everyone after the session. All right, a reminder, technology is a skill, just like everything else. It takes time, it takes practice to master this skill. Starting with Zoom is a pretty small thing, but it's such a common tool that it's good to know it pretty well. So just practice it. If you don't know Zoom that well, it's okay, because lots of people don't know it that well. Or if you think you know it pretty well because you attend a lot, and then you get in and realize, oh, wow, I don't know a whole lot of these tools, or I feel like I'm kind of slow at doing things like sharing your screen or trying to get your students on. Like I said, that's just fine. This is going to be a judgment-free zone. This is kind of like Planet Fitness. You ask any questions. There is no stupid question in this. So, you know, ask me absolutely anything. You're not going to break your computer. Using Zoom, you might break it if you pick it up and throw it on the ground, but don't be afraid to touch things on Zoom. Don't be afraid to go into the settings. Don't be afraid to change the settings. Play around with it. You know, you're not going to break the whole thing and it's never going to work again. You can always correct it. And if you did break something that you can't figure out how to correct it, you can always email me and I can help you. Give me a call. And then the last point on here I just wanted to make is that we'll probably do a more in-depth session later on, depending on how people feel after this. All right, so let's dive into learning the tools. Okay, so starting with you, are you struggling with Zoom right now? Tell me what the most difficult part of learning online is. Whether you are teaching, whether you are learning, what is the most difficult part of being on Zoom? And for this, I apologize for the fuzzy nature of this. This was a really small picture that I had to enlarge. But for the first thing that we're going to show is the chat box. So if you go to the bottom of your screen, you should see a little chat icon, open it up, and you can type your message into the chat box and hit enter. Breakout sessions, yep. Signing documents on Zoom, that's a very, that's probably a more complex thing, but I can actually give you a good, give you a pretty good tip for that, signing documents on Zoom. Zoom etiquette, okay. Let me write these down. Sharing documents, limitations of using an iPad. So mobile use is going to be tough. The phone just has limitations. You're not going to be able to do quite as much with the phone, unfortunately. Phone versus, yeah, so a lot of people getting volume to show on videos, okay. Not speaking over participants when there is lag, yep. I'll be on a computer, but but students that will be on their phones and tablets, yeah. These are all very difficult problems to deal with. Can we have your email and phone number? Yeah, so I have my information in this session. So when I send it out to everyone, then you can of course email me if you have any issues. All right. So when it comes to the phones and the tablets, unfortunately, there are just going to be limitations. You can't really, toggling screens is difficult on phones, and they do have to download the app. So we can do a more in-depth session. So keep that in mind. We won't be going into phones during the session too much, but if you would like to see something more in-depth for phones, just keep that in mind and let me know at the end of the session. So when you're using a phone, sometimes they have to, if they're on the app, the Zoom app, you'd have to kind of scroll through the different tabs to get to a different application. There are applications that work better than others on the phone, like Google Docs and Jamboard, or sometimes they're kind of hard to use on the phone, but I did find a resource that would be good for you. So I'll make sure to send that to you. All right, so we're going to move on to the next slide here. Okay, so starting off simple, turning off and on your mic. The bottom left-hand corner, or it may be somewhere else, but I did test it on a couple of different browsers, and it should be on the bottom left-hand of most people's thing. So turn on your cameras and turn off your cameras. So toggle it on and off. You'll see a red line through each one. And for our purposes, I would like you to leave on your mic for now, but if you hear something going on in your background, you can please turn it off, and keep your cameras on too. I would really appreciate that. I would love to have more of a discussion here. All right, so now let's talk about paid versus unpaid. So let's take a quick poll. So I want to know how many people are using the paid versions versus the unpaid versions. So I'll go ahead and launch that now. All right, so you should be able to see the poll there. So go ahead and click that. So the unpaid version is the 45-minute version. The paid version, of course, allows you to do it longer. If you're using it from, if you're using like a school or an organizational Zoom account, and you can do longer than 45-minute sessions, more than likely that is a paid version. Okay.
For me, it's been cutting off closer to 40 than 45 for some reason.
Yeah, it has.
Oh, is it 40 now?
I think it's 40 now.
It's 40
May
now.
I ask a question on this?
Yeah, definitely.
I just got converted this morning to paid, and I could not get it really to work. So I ended up using an unpaid. So maybe I need to look into what the problem was.
So exactly what happened? Did you
I could not get her, I could not admit my student. So I just jumped us back to my husband's unpaid.
Interesting. Okay. So
But that's not your problem. But anyhow, I marked it unpaid right now.
Okay.
That's what I'm using.
well, you definitely, yeah, just, kind of pay attention to the paid version, the stuff in the paid version as well, because you're going to probably start using those features
Right.
too.
Okay,
So,
thank you.
and if you'd like to email me after this, I can kind of see what the issue is.
Great.
That is strange though. You should be able to start.
Well,
using
I'm sure it's me.
Maybe you'll figure it out by the end of the session. Who knows?
Maybe.
You
All
may
right,
need.
so I'm going to share the results. It looks like most people are doing the unpaid version right now. So that's the one with the 40-minute limit. And then 34% of people are doing the paid version and 7% are not sure. So if you are using your, if you are with an organization or a school, ask your administration or the program coordinator if they have a paid version. They may already have a paid version and you just aren't a part of it. If they don't, definitely encourage them to get it. It's not too expensive, and it's a world of difference, in my opinion. Okay, so I'll go ahead and share these results with you. Those are the percentages. All right, so let's move on. So here are the major differences for our purposes. There's lots of little differences, but for our purposes, for this webinar today, polls, you cannot use polls in an unpaid version. So what I just did right now, a lot of you probably don't do or can't do because it's unpaid. You can bypass this password security. So currently in the unpaid version, you have to have a password, and it's optional to have the waiting room. In the unpaid version, in the paid version, as you notice, you didn't have to enter a password to get in here. I can take off all security measures on an unpaid one. And there are, of course, you know, there's good things about that and there's bad things about that. Of course, you want it to be more secure, but also we want the ease of use as well. So with the paid version, you could just send somebody a link and they could just get right on without having to put in a password or be in a waiting room or anything like that. So it is easier. Cloud recording. So on the paid version, you can record things to Zoom itself and have a library of your recordings online. Setting up pre-registration. So if you want people to pre-register like you all did for this session, put in their name, email address, and any other question, you can customize your questions. That's a feature of the paid version. And then surveys, also, if you want to do if you want a survey to pop up on the screen after you're done, then that is also a paid version. So it is $14.99 a month, I believe, for the paid version, which, you know, it's a little pricey. You know, it's not, you know, super cheap or anything like that. But for an organization, I think it's not too bad. So if you're a part of an organization that doesn't have a paid version, I would definitely recommend it. Okay, so we'll start with the participants tab. So everyone, please direct your attention to the bottom of your screen. And you will see a tab that says participants. It's got two little people. And if you open that up, you can see the participants. As an attendee, you're going to see just the names of people. As a host, you're going to see a waiting room if you have a waiting room set, and you can admit people in. Many of you may already know that. This is what the participants tab looks like. You can invite people, you can mute everyone. Muting everyone is good if you have a whole lot of background noise happening at one time. All right, we're starting simple. So as a presenter, when you're presenting, you are going to see things a little bit differently. So this is where things get a little tricky, is when you're presenting on Zoom. Things start changing all over the place. Things move, and this is what you're looking for here. I'll go to the next slide here. There it is. That little symbol right there is what you're looking for. You want to find that little skinny bar that says you are sharing and stop share. You're not going to see your whole menu bar. You have to find that and hover your mouse over it to then reveal your larger bar. And you guys will get to play around with sharing your screen when we get to the breakout rooms. All right, balancing your screens. So does anyone have issues with balancing your screens while you're in a Zoom session? Meaning you have multiple assignments, you have your Zoom window, and it's just tough to kind of balance everything together. Does anyone have issues with that? Yeah, it's definitely a dance. Right now I have two screens. I would recommend getting another screen. There are some screens on Amazon that are about $100. But you know, not everyone has or wants two screens, so you can do it. You can balance your screens pretty well without using two screens. My recommendation is to share your whole screen instead of sharing an application. because when you do that, you are, you're going to be able to switch between website and your PowerPoint presentation very seamlessly. Whereas if you notice, sometimes you open up, you share your screen and you can't, and you change to something else and your students say, I can't see your screen. It's because you're only sharing the application. You're not sharing the whole screen. So when we get to the screen share, when we get to sharing our screens in later on in the breakout rooms, you'll see what I'm saying. The first box is the one that you want to click that says share your whole screen. The problem with this, of course, is that people can see everything. They can see your email, they can see all of your icons. So it's just up to you what you're most comfortable with. But for the sake of balancing everything, sharing your entire screen is usually a little bit easier. I'd also recommend getting a mouse if you don't have one. If you're using your trackpad on your laptop, it's just going to make things much more difficult. Just a simple mouse like this one costs next to nothing at Office Depot or Office Max. I don't even know if those are still open yet anymore, but I mean, they're very cheap. I would highly recommend getting a mouse. If you're not going to get a second screen, at least get a mouse.
Hi, Nicole. It's Jenny.
Yes.
I'm sorry. Can I interject one thing?
Yeah.
When you want to share your entire screen, you can just make sure you close out of everything before you do.
Definitely. Make sure you have a clean screen. You don't want anybody accidentally seeing something like your emails. That's not great. And I'm about to, I'll show you my own screen just to kind of show you an example of how I balance my screen. But yes, highly recommend closing the things you don't want people to see if you're going to share your whole screen. But frankly, it is easier to share your whole screen as opposed to sharing each individual application. So when you click this, so I would like everyone to open up the screen share button. So the screen share button, don't share anything, please. But if you click the green button at the bottom in the center of your screen at the bottom, you'll notice it comes up, a couple of different options here come up. You should see your screens, and it's covering my screen now, so I'll move that out of the way. But you should see screens and then applications. You might see your email. You might see your internet browser. You'll see a whiteboard. You'll see an iPhone, iPad. So these are the different options you have. If you're going to share your whole screen, you're going to be clicking screen 1. And that's how you do that. If you want to share by application, you will click the application, you'll share that. And then when you want to go to a different application, you'll click it again and click a different application. So,
Nicole,
yes.
the message I think we're getting doing that is that we can't screen share while other participant is sharing. So we're not seeing the controls you're talking about.
Right.
Okay. Let me
Yes.
see, let me change that. Okay, so yeah, you should be able to at least press the green button, but if not, that's okay. That's not necessary for this. I just wanted to show you where those were. So another thing we'll go over a little bit later is exiting full screen and then bringing all your materials ahead of time. So you definitely want to have everything that you're already planning on using up and ready to go. You know, sometimes you decide to use something on the fly, and that's fine. But I think for the most part, you're going to want to have your stuff ready to go. So I'm going to stop my share for a second, and then I'm going to show you how I balance my screen. And it's a little crazy, but this is when I only have one screen. So many of you may already know this, but you can actually snap your screens. So for instance, if you want to automatically make one application, if you want it to go to one half of the screen, all you do is bring it all the way over to one half of the screen and then let it go. And it will allow you to pick another application to populate the other half of the screen. So if you can see now, I have a split screen. This is, I believe this is Windows 7 and up. So if you have an older computer, it may not allow you to do this, but this is what I found to be the quickest way to kind of balance two screens at the same time. While you're doing this, you do not have to share your whole screen. You could share one application and it will only show one application. So let's go ahead and stop sharing that. Okay, so I'm going to stop sharing that. All right. That's the presentation. Okay. So, like I said, just find ways if you have one monitor to kind of balance your screen like that. If you have, if you're interested in using the Google Drive or the Google Suite, Google has a great feature for like a presenting feature that I really love. But I'm pretty sure PowerPoint has a very similar presenter feature, but that's more in depth than I'm going to get here. If you would like to do a more in-depth session on sharing your screen and balancing your screens, you could indicate that at the end of the session. Okay, so I just showed you a little bit of behind the scenes with what it looks like when you are using multiple windows at once. Any questions so far? I've got something here in the chat. Let me pull it up. The split screen should not be difficult for students to use on phones. They won't be able to split their screens. You will be able to split the screen and then just choose one application to share. You won't be sharing your entire screen when you're splitting. What you'd be, the best thing to do is to split your screen. You have your notes or things that you need to do on one side, and then the application that you're going to be sharing with your student on another side. I wouldn't recommend sharing a split screen like I just
Please
did.
remove your card. Would you like an e-receipt?
Somebody's talking right now, so I'm going to mute that person. Let's see.
Thank you for shopping at the Home Depot.
Nice. Okay. All right. So we're going to go on to the next slide. We'll talk about that a little bit more too. All right. So these next few functions are going to be specific to hosting. So we've got recording and transcribing. So you can set a transcription. In fact, I'll do so right now. Okay, so once you enable auto transcription, it transcribes your voice. So therefore you would be able to allow your voice to have automatic captions, closed captioning, which is great, especially for English language learners. You can manually do this too. I really don't recommend that. You could do manual transcription of a recording. So you could also press the record button at the bottom of your screen to record your session, which is what I did earlier. You can record it to the cloud or record it on your computer. If you have the unpaid version, you'll be recording it on your computer. Once the session is over, you will get a little prompt that will tell you that it is converting to MP4. MP4 is just the file format for video. And then it will save, it'll show you the file location where it will land. The problem is that sometimes you'll exit out of your recording file too quickly. In that case, all you're going to do is go to your documents and search for Zoom. It's usually in a folder that says Zoom somewhere in your file folders. I've done it a million times by accident, exit out without seeing where my recording actually went on my computer. You can typically search it and you'll find it pretty easily. Recordings are going to be automatically set up with the name of the session and the date of the session. And that's how the file will be named in your computer. All right. So if you look at the bottom of your screen, you should see something that says Live Transcript or CC. If you click that, you should be able to enable transcript. All right. Any questions on recording or transcribing? All right.
Yes. I'm not seeing that button. Where is that button to do live?
So at the bottom of your screen, if you look on the screen that I'm sharing here, you'll see something that says CC. Do you see that at the bottom of your screen?
No.
Closed captioning. So then in that case, you may want to click on the 3 dots that say more at the bottom of your screen, and it'll have a list of different options there. So there you will see transcripts, hide transcripts, or show, hide or show subtitles. Have you found it yet?
No, my 3 dots just says record on the computer.
Record on the computer.
That's the
Okay.
only thing it shows. I don't know. Maybe
Is
it's
anyone
just
showing
me.
closed captioning at all?
Yeah. Are others seeing it?
Yes. Yes, right next to the record button.
Yes.
It should be right. It's either right next to the record button on the bottom that says CC, or if you're not seeing it, it could be in the more, like under more options. Are you still having trouble finding it?
Yeah, it's not there.
Okay, well, that's not a problem. So what I will do, so what you can do is email me after this, or I'm sorry, who was the one saying that they were having trouble?
Lori Webb.
Lori, okay. All right, Lori. It may be something to do with your the app itself. It could be a setting in there. So there is a whole host of settings in the Zoom account, which I'm going to go over later, that it may be hidden somewhere in there that you have to actually allow for it. So we'll go over it later, and I'll see if I can find something on closed captioning in the settings that you might be able to do.
I have a question about
Yes.
transcript. What does that mean? I mean, do they provide us what we're, the transcript is that an audio or is that written down?
So it's both. So you'll have a live caption subtitle of what you're saying. It's an auto-generated subtitle. So it may not be 100% accurate.
Oh,
At the same time, it's actually transcribing everything that you're saying, and it's attributing it to the person who's talking. So for instance, it will say Nicole, and it will have everything that I just said. And if somebody else starts talking, it'll write down everything that they're saying. So you'll get an auto transcription. It's not perfect. I've never seen it perfectly done. It always kind of messes up a little bit.
it's like a closed caption, like, right?
Yep.
Okay,
And you should, so that's closed caption.
thank you.
Yep, you're welcome. Any other questions?
I have a question.
Yes.
I'm Diane.
Okay.
So do you only get, can you only get a live transcript if the host has said record the session?
No, you don't have to record the session in order to do a live transcription. You will not be able to get a transcription. Well, actually, I think you can still get a transcription regardless of whether or not you record.
So that's up to me as the participant. If I want a live transcript, I can just hit that anytime during this session, or
So with the transcription, that is up to the host. So it will give you a warning that that closed captioning is enabled and recording is enabled. Basically, being on Zoom is consenting to being recorded when the host has recorded the session. And I think the same goes for closed captioning as well. It will continue to transcribe you and everything you're saying and everything I'm saying, if the host allows it. So what you can do though, is you can hide it. So you don't have to see it. If you don't really want it there, you can go in and hide the transcription, or you can hide the closed captioning. You don't have to have it there. But yes, I would recommend getting the consent of everyone before you start doing it.
Okay, but I guess I'm asking, as a participant, can I get a live transcript of any Zoom meeting that I'm on?
So you can't get it after the fact. You can, I think, see it during. So if you go to the closed captioning button, it should allow you to view live transcript. So you can view it while you're in the session, but you can't get it after the fact. You'll have to ask the host to send it to you as an attendee.
Okay, thank you.
Yep, no problem. All right, any other questions about closed captioning?
Well, I think
Sorry, go
one
ahead.
suggesting,
Yeah.
if people do exactly what you just said, Nicole, you can get a sense of what the transcripts look like, and how they're not 100% accurate. So you do need to kind of go in and edit them if you're going to be using them after.
Yeah,
the
if
fact.
anybody just went into it, I'm sure it was all kinds of confused with the wrong names. But it is a good starting point though, if you wanted to transcribe Zoom without having to do it all manually or have someone else doing it manually for you. It's at least a jumping off point. You can kind of copy and paste it into your Word document and fix it up from there. But it at least records down what everyone's saying, which is nice.
It's pretty good. I would say probably at least 90% accurate.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
Yeah.
It gets more difficult when multiple people are talking at once, then it kind of confuses things a little bit. But if it's mostly, lecture. Oh, and also accents, it has a little bit of a hard time with accents too. So, all right, let's move on. Okay, the fun stuff, annotations. So I don't know how frequently people use annotations. I think they're great and they're fun. I love annotations. And this is one of the things that can help a little bit with engagement on Zoom, especially if you have multiple people annotating at one time. So of course we're going to try it. We're not just going to leave it here. There's a lot of people on this session. So before we get to that, I'll show you how to do it. So what you want to do is actually, for this one, go to the top of your screen. There will be a little, if you put your mouse over to the top, you'll see something that says Annotate. And once you hit Annotate, you should get this little bar at the top, which has a bunch of different tools, basically, that you could use to annotate on the screen. So everyone go ahead and open up that Annotate button. So pull your mouse up to the top of your screen to where you see view options. There we go. So we got some people starting it. So so when you see that bar, this is how I like to describe it. And I've mentioned this before on other sessions, so I'm sorry if I'm sounding like a broken record, but this thing is kind of like a regular pen. So when you are using the tool, think of this as a pen with multiple things. You can clear out your drawings or clear everyone's drawings. So right now I'm going to clear everyone's drawings. Sorry about that. They were beautiful. And then, no. So once you are ready to move on to the next slide, you have to close your pen cap by pressing that little X button. If you don't do that, you're just going to keep drawing on your slides.
Which is the, oh, I see that.
Yeah, the little red X button. If you click that closed, it's like capping your pen and putting it aside and moving on, because you can't do anything once you have your pen out. You're just going to accidentally draw on the slide instead of trying to move forward. So we're going to clear all these drawings, and then, so go ahead and this is just like a practice now, just kind of mess up this slide. Yeah, there's tic-tac-toe. You can draw an animal, do whatever you want.
So what's the difference in that and the clear thing?
What was that?
What's the difference in that they like kind of erasing it and clearing it? It says clear there.
Yeah. So is anyone still having trouble finding the annotation tool? You can say it in the chat or you can say it out loud. I'll give a few, whoa. So I'll give everyone, we'll just give it another minute. Doesn't look like anyone's having trouble with annotation. Okay. I don't know what that animal is on the right, but it's cute. Okay, so we're going to move on to the next thing. It seems that you guys are very good on annotation, but I do want to keep this going.
She gonna talk to you at some point?
All right, so that's okay. So now we're going to talk about polls. Now polls are going to be only for the paid version. So I won't spend too much time on polls because it seems like most of everyone here doesn't have the paid version. But I think it's important to go over really quickly. So usually I like to show you how to do the tool and then show you the behind the scenes, meaning my desktop. But for this one, we're going to do it backwards. I'm going to show you what it looks like on the back end before we kind of go over how to use the tool in Zoom. So let's go ahead and share my other screen here too. All right. Okay, so you guys should be looking at my Zoom account right now. So when you're trying to do a poll, so you will not see this bottom part right here with an unpaid version. Is that correct? If you have an unpaid version, you should not see this registration, email settings, brandings, polls, and survey. So if you have a paid version, you can create polls pretty simply. You could just click this little blue create button and you put a title on your poll. So you could do it as a test. And then you can add your questions here. You only have two options. Your options are multiple choice or single choice, and that's it. That's all they give you. And then, so I'm not gonna do the poll for sake of time, and since most people don't have the poll, but I will give you a question, the question that I was gonna ask. We are gonna be using the same question for the breakout room. So just kind of start thinking about the answer. And the question is, what is the best bottled water brand? So is it Dasani? Is it Aquafina? Is it Smart Water? You're gonna have to debate that later in your breakout groups. So make sure you think about that now. But for sake of time, I'm not gonna put the whole thing down as a poll, but I will kind of just show you, you can add questions here. So you can make this one multiple choice. The first one is single choice. You can add choices. You could do up to 5 questions per poll. Okay. And then you just hit save. And then it saves your poll.
There's a question, Nicole, about how you get to the screen. Somebody asked.
Oh, okay. So this is going to be your regular Zoom account. Thank you so much for bringing that up. Yes. So when you sign on to your Zoom account, and I can actually go ahead and sign out and sign back in just to show you. All right, so when you go to zoom.us, this is what you're going to see. You're going to click the sign in button. And then you're going to put your email address and password in, and then you'll sign in. And then once you sign in, you're going to see your upcoming meetings. So these are the ones that are pre-scheduled. And we're going to be talking about this a little later on about pre-scheduling. And then for this purpose, I went into the Beyond the Basics using Zoom for Effective Online Learning. I just clicked into that and it brings me to the page for the specific Zoom session. And I'll go more in depth later on setting up a class or setting up a recurring class. All right, let's see, we got something in the chat. How do you launch the poll? I'll show you how to launch the poll in just a second. All right, so now let's go ahead and go back to the presentation. Right. Okay, so this is how you find and launch the polls. Again, apologize for the fuzziness, but this is really small. These are really pretty small icons that I'm trying to blow up. But on the bottom of your screen, you will see a polls icon. This is if you are on the paid version, of course. It pulls up your untitled poll and it has a little button in the corner that says launch. So I'm gonna get my little annotation so I can circle things. So this is the polls, and then when you pull up the polls, this is what you see, and you'll hit launch. Once you launch the polls or the poll, you'll see this. Now this is your poll and it gives you your 2 answers and it gives you a reading of what the percentage is of people who answered each question. So that's how I was able to see how many people answered and who answered what in the poll. After that, it's share results. You click end poll, then share results. And then that's how it kind of shows to everyone what the results of the poll were. And then hit stop sharing to get it off of everyone's screen. And then you can exit out of the poll. And that's how to use a poll. If you are looking to do a more in-depth session on polling or some of these features, just keep that in mind and let me know at the end of the session.
There's a question on that folks aren't seeing that, and that's because you have to be a host to see that.
That's
correct?
right. So
Yep.
So not only do you have to be a host, but you also have to be a paid host, meaning you have to have a paid Zoom account and you also have to be a host or co-host. Actually, I think you can't even be a co-host. I think you have to be a host in order to do polling. So that's why I don't want to spend too much time on it. But for those of you who are interested in going a little more in depth on polling, just let me know. Any other questions on polls for now? All right, let's go to the next slide here. Oh, my box got a little messed up. Okay, breakouts. So this is the one that a lot of people are having issues with, is breakout sessions. The breakout, let me kind of fix this by drawing a new box. Okay, so this is the breakout room right here. Put a little X here. All right, so this is the breakout room. So it should be at the bottom of your screen. So if you can't see the breakout rooms, likely it's because you're not a host. Usually only hosts can open up breakout rooms. But as an attendee, you should be able to see it just because when I launch a breakout room, you should be able to access the breakout rooms. So if you don't see it, you could go to the More button. Again, if you don't see something on that bottom, it's because Zoom, when you exit out of full screen and you shrink your box, everything else shrinks and it hides some of the icons. So then you have to go to the More button and search for what it is you're looking for, unfortunately. Once you do that, you click on the breakout rooms.
Just FYI, the co-host can also do that. So
Yes.
anybody that's teaming up.
That's right. So if you're teaming, if you have two people that are kind of co-teaching, one person can open the breakout rooms and the other person can, do other things. So yes, unlike the polls, you can have two people doing the breakout rooms at once. All right. So then here's the next part of polls. Once you open up breakouts. Once you open up the breakout rooms, you can create any number of breakout rooms that you'd like. It can automatically assign people to breakout rooms based on how many people are in the room and how many breakout rooms you want. So essentially, if you want 5 groups of 4, you can put in 5 groups and it'll tell you how many participants per room you'll have. So it's really smart. It can it will automatically make everything even. It's a really nice feature. You can also assign manually, meaning you can basically click each person and manually assign them to a room. Or you can let the participants choose a room. So that would be, you can let them join whichever room they want. This is nice because you can do different discussion topics and have people choose which discussion topic they want to jump into. And this is what it looks like once you create the rooms. So the picture here on the right is basically if you have 3 rooms created, you can click options at the bottom left-hand corner of that breakout room screen. And that's where you can customize the time that you want people in there. You want the countdown timer. So it's good practice to give people a little bit of a heads up before they're going to be kicked out of a room. This says 60 seconds. I typically like to do it like 30 seconds or 15 seconds. It just depends on how long the rooms are created for.
Excuse me, I don't see where the breakout rooms, I don't see where to go into it.
Are you all seeing my screen here, my PowerPoint presentation?
Yeah, we're seeing it.
Yes.
Okay, so that box on the right, Opal, was that you who said that? I'm sorry.
It's me.
Okay, so Opal, if you look at this box on the right, I'll go ahead and circle it. Where is mine? There it is. With the red, right here. You see it?
Yeah, I think you can't pull this up because you're not a host.
Oh,
If
I
that's
see what
you're
you're
asking,
saying.
yeah.
If you're trying, if you're trying to do it, you're not going to be able to do it unless you're a host or a co-host.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So unfortunately, we can't model that here. However, again, like I said, with every other thing, if you want to see a more in-depth session on this, we can do a smaller group session where I can make everyone co-hosts and everyone can kind of take turns doing this.
I have another question about the difference between the paid and the unpaid version.
Yeah.
I know you have the limit, like the 40 minutes or whatever.
Mhm.
If you wanted to go with more time with the student, could you do one 40-minute and then go out and go back again?
From my knowledge, yes, you should be able to do that. It just
tried that, but I didn't know whether I could do it or not.
yeah.
I do that on a regular basis.
There
So
you go.
most
So
of
do
my
I.
meetings are 240s.
Feed the system.
Okay.
So yes, you can do that.
Mhm.
All right. Okay, so next, when you're looking to join a room as a host or co-host, you can jump from room to room. If you're setting up the breakout rooms as a host, you have to check to, you have to allow, you have to make it so that the co-host isn't automatically put into a room. But even if the co-host is put into a room automatically, they can leave. So as a host, you see this is your breakout rooms. Once you've created the rooms and once you've assigned everyone into their rooms and they're gone, this is how you can jump from room to room. There's a little blue button next to each room that says join. And then if you'd like to join room 1, click yes, and it will put you into that group. That little button at the bottom says leave room. That's how you leave the room. It's at the bottom right-hand corner of the screen. And I'm going to dump you all into rooms in a second, so you'll be able to see this. Okay, these 3 buttons here, leave room, leave meeting, and meeting for all. You want to make sure you click on the leave breakout room and don't accidentally close the whole meeting out. That's very important. If you leave the meeting, it's not a big deal. Once you leave, if you leave the meeting by accident, all you have to do is click back on the link and the host should let you back in. So it's really, if you accidentally leave, don't panic. It's not a big deal. Just click back on the link. If you end the meeting for everyone, then do panic and then send out an apology to everyone. So just a heads up, do not click end meeting for all by accident. They did highlight it in blue to try to make it a little easier for you to leave the breakout room. So when you're leaving the breakout room, it is putting you back into the main session with everyone. So that's what that means. So very similar to a conference session, you're in your room. When you leave your room, you go back into the main room with everyone else. That's essentially how this works. So that's what it means to leave the breakout room. Any questions about breakouts before we do the breakouts? I see this chat. Let's see. Okay. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So I've got a few things in the chat. You can open the breakout room. Okay. Good. So Maureen, yeah, you have to be the host to do all of this. So basically, if this is all these tools are from the perspective of the host. So that's if you're hosting a session. Okay, so here are the breakout rooms. Just make sure that you're debating the topic, what is the best bottled water? And please take turns sharing your screens. So basically go to the bottom of your screen and click share screen, and you can share your screen. Play around with it a little bit. We will be doing this just for about, what time is it? Okay, so we're only going to do this for probably about 5 minutes. Yeah, just 5 minutes. And then we are going to come back together. So the rooms are open now, so you should be able to join the rooms. So let's work on that and grab the.
I don't see anything to click to join the room.
No, I don't
Not
either.
Oh, looks like
I think I lost it.
Oh, here we go. Okay, so let's go ahead and recreate these rooms. So we're going to do 3 breakout rooms. Well, no, 3 is not enough. Let's do 7 breakout rooms. Hang on one second.
Random assignment, automatic.
Yeah, I'm going to do random assignment. We'll give you a 15-second countdown. All right, so let's see. Let's open all the rooms.
Okay, there it is.
Okay, you should be able to join now.
Yes.
Yes.
And I don't see me. Is that because of co-host? Or I'm just blind?
Maria, you can't see you? Yeah, I have to assign you.
Okay,
Assign
thank
you
you.
to room 3.
Thank you.
Okay. And I'm going to join. Let's hear
Excellent.
debates. What is the best bottled water?
I'm just going to say Kirkland sparkling water.
Okay.
Prove me wrong. That's all I'm saying. There is no other.
Okay.
There is no discussion here.
Okay, perfect. So everyone take a look at your room. You could see that you have leave room on the bottom corner there. You have the screen share, so you can share your screen in your room if you would like. Go ahead, play around with it. Let me make sure that okay, so everyone is allowed to share. So I'm going to bounce around to the next room, have a very heated discussion.
All right, there we go. Thank you.
So what brand you buy? So what
Whatever
brand you
is
buy?
inexpensive and just
At-
drinking
on-
water, nothing,
okay.
no additives, no,
Right, no cup
minerals,
flavors.
nothing.
Yep,
Just
and just
tap,
flat water, nothing
spring water,
sparkly.
drinking, yeah.
Yeah, I'll
as
go
long as
along
it's
with
not
that.
from Flint. That's right. Okay, so
And-
everyone noticed that there's a leave room button at the bottom of your screen, bottom corner. There's also the share screen button, which should be available if you'd like to open up your screen and kind of mess around with that. Please feel free to. Just remember to stop sharing if someone else
Oops.
wants to share their screen.
Oops.
It's up to
I
you.
have done it, so go ahead if somebody else
I
wants to
have
try.
also, I use it.
Oops.
Did someone ask for help in this room?
If you move your
Okay,
mouse.
I see it. Yep,
that green
stop
ring-
share. There we go.
Okay, okay, cool.
Okay.
Student in the class, and it was truly boring to just have one student. I love the fact that I have now multiple students, and then they go into breakout room and they practice. In my case, they speak Spanish as a first language, so they are always able to negotiate the meaning in Spanish if needed.
And this is the same set of people all the time?
No, every day is different. But I teach English to McDonald's employees.
Oh.
So I work with the same population, and I use one Zoom link for every day.
All right, Charlene, I see that you're sharing your screen, or someone is, so I'm gonna go ahead and take that screen back. We'll move on. All right, welcome back, everyone. So which bottled water is the best? Because I actually need to know that.
I just learned of a new one called Eternal. I just learned of that.
Sounds expensive.
I don't think we had a clear consensus.
Okay.
Okay, Nicole, it is on sale at your local Publix.
Okay.
Buy one, get one free, 1.5 liters. It's naturally alkaline water.
Okay.
I'm trying it tonight. I'm going.
Yes,
I'm going to Publix and try
the
it.
best, the best.
Okay. So nobody said Dasani?
No, yeah.
I'm sorry.
My favorite was Poland Spring, but now I'm going to try this Eternal and see what's up.
Okay.
Well, and our group decided whatever was on sale was the best water.
Public
Yeah.
spring water.
Yeah.
All right. So I hope some of you got to, share your screen if you haven't done it before. If not, again, not a big deal. We can always do a little bit more of an in-depth session on breakouts where we can kind of pass the host role around. Breakouts are the ones that I think we could do the most damage on in a separate session, especially since there's just so much to it. There's a lot of ways to use breakout rooms, and it's kind of complicated. So if you would like to see something a little more in depth on breakout rooms, just let me know. Let's see if I've got something.
I have a question.
Yes.
And now I see it in chat as well. I remember there being a warning.
Yeah. There
But I
should have
didn't
been
see it this time. Were we just talking too much?
Yeah, there should have been a 15-second warning that popped up on the screen. Not sure why it didn't show.
We
don't
got it in ours.
We
I
had
saw
it.
it.
Okay.
Yeah,
we
we
did.
had it in ours. We had it, yeah.
Okay, maybe I was too busy yakking away.
Very important topics. Okay. So I'm going to show you a little bit about the breakouts on the back end. So basically the same thing I did for polls. I'm going to show you what you could do with breakouts on your before you even start the session. So let's go ahead and change my screen. Here it is. Move that here. Okay, so you should all, oh, nope. Still doesn't want to.
Okay.
All right, there we go. Still no, huh? Are you guys seeing my PowerPoint or
Zoom.
Use Zoom? Okay,
Zoom.
perfect. Okay, so I'll go to a different meeting for this because you need to hit the edit button. Once you have a meeting already started, you can't edit the meeting, just a quick heads up. So I'll show you this on a different meeting. So here, so here's just a very typical Zoom page.
Delivered for you at your residence. The package is
All right.
currently at the front desk. Hello.
Okay, so so here's a regular Zoom page. So if you hit edit on your Zoom page, and remember we came into this Zoom page the same way we did before by logging in and choosing the meeting. Click on edit. And once you go to edit, you'll see some options here. So these are just the basic options, which I'll go over a little bit later. But in terms of breakouts, if you go to the options and you choose show, you can actually create and pre-assign a breakout room ahead of time. You can import your roster straight in here. And then, or you could create rooms like this. You can create lists from like an Excel sheet or a CSV. So you import your list here and you could just pre-create rooms. Now, this will save you a lot of time once you're in the session, because most of the time, in most cases, people will just create the breakout room right there on the spot. They make it easy to do so. So it's not, you know, a big deal. But if you would like to make sure that the class is pre-assigned into groups before you ever even open the Zoom, your Zoom app, this will save you a bunch of time. If you want to randomly create, or you don't know who's going to be in your class necessarily the next week, then I wouldn't do this. But this is definitely great if you have a consistent group that come to your class every week and you would like to pre-form those groups. It'll save you a bunch of time.
So how do you get that list? I mean, are these folks who pre-signed up for the session and then their names in there and that's the list you're downloading?
This is any Excel file that you have. So any CSV, it says CSV, comes separated values. So, so you can change your Excel workbook. You can just change the format to a CSV and upload that to Zoom. So it's really any list of people that you want can go in here. You don't, if you have a separate roster, you can upload it here, is what I mean. Does that answer your question? Yeah.
I'm trying to understand it. So people will see their names and then click on that room. Is that it?
Yes, that's exactly right. So
Okay.
What will happen is when you open the breakout rooms, they should already pre-assigned and they just have to join their rooms essentially. So kind of like how, you know, if you were to do it here and you were to automatically assign, it'll be similar, except it's already pre-populated.
Is that the same way that you would go into the participants list and copy the, say, email addresses or the names? Would you need to do that to do this? Or that I find that really confusing.
So in order to get a CSV or an Excel file. I think this would probably work with an Excel file too. I've not used an Excel file, but for that, if you wanted to get a list of people ahead of time to upload here, what you would do is you would go to account management and you would go to reports here on the side. So once you go to reports, this is where it gets nice and confusing. You get all these kinds of reports. I find it easiest to go to active hosts, and it shows you a list of your meetings. You just go to the previous meeting you had with your group, and it shows you how many people were there. You click on that, and you can automatically download a CSV from here.
And how
It's
do
a
you
lot.
do that? How do you actually download it?
So go ahead and click export once you get this.
Okay.
And it downloads for you automatically in a CSV, a generated CSV.
And where will you find that then once it's downloaded?
Once it's downloaded, it should populate at the bottom of your screen, and you could just open it up like this. Oh, it opened up on my other screen. There we go. And that's what this is your data set now. So you could save this anywhere on your desktop to get it. Or another option is to just open up your file explorer. So I'll open up my file explorer and go to downloads. And it is the first thing.
Of course.
On your
okay.
list.
Perfect.
So people can use this as an attendance list, correct?
You can use this as an attendance list. I do it all the time.
Yeah.
So I'll just go over it one more time because it is a little confusing. From the main page, you're going to go to account management. You're going to go to reports. And this is being recorded, by the way. So you can go to active hosts and then find your meeting and click on the participants. Then you click export and you'll get your list. Okay. Once you have that list, you can go back. And of course, you could use that as a regular attendance list, but you can go back in to your meeting, your next class that you have set. Edit. Show options. And then upload, create your rooms with that list you just generated. It's a little confusing. I know that it's a lot. I do have the recording here. I can send out the recording to anyone who wants it. That's essentially how you pull a report and upload it to a breakout room. Any questions about that? Maureen, you want the recording? Okay, I'll just send the recording out with the presentation. It shouldn't need any editing, so I should be able to upload it to YouTube today. Okay, so let's move on to the next. All right. Does anyone see when I open up something in Zoom, do you ever notice that you see a black box, like a little thing that obscures the screen?
Yes.
So what that is if you don't know already, you're pulling up any Zoom application in front of your screen that you're sharing. It's going to do that. So that's why, again, balancing your screens is important. You can move things out of the way. You can kind of put them to the corner a little bit. If you share an application, it shouldn't do that. So that's another reason why you might want to share an application as opposed to sharing a screen. All right, moving on. Okay, troubleshooting. Let's all be IT professionals today. First, I want to talk about the importance of visuals. So we, for our online English conversation classes, we use a curriculum called We Speak NYC. And what they have done, And Maria, maybe you could speak to this a little, but what they have done is they have kind of created a couple of slides for the students that basically show them the tools that they're going to use during the session with steps. Now, this is for like more of a intermediate level student. So just keep that in mind.
But it's really so that everybody's coming in with the same information, no matter if this is the first time you're using it or not.
Correct.
Yeah.
And how do you feel it works, Maria, if you want to speak?
I think it does, because it's the raising of the hand and that kind of thing. And I just think it's important to like level set in the beginning and then move on.
Right. So so they have, in every single curriculum, they have these first few slides, or in every single week's curriculum or week's work, they have these few slides in the beginning that show you how to mute yourself, how to locate the mute button, and they do it in pictures. So I think it's very important to give visuals when possible. So this could help with some of the issues right off the bat. You know, make sure that everyone can mute and unmute themselves, make sure people can stop their video and turn on their video, and make sure people know where the reactions are, anything that they'll need for the meeting essentially, and know how to leave the meeting if they need to. All right. And these are just examples of what they use. All right, so audio troubleshooting. So there are a few things that people usually have trouble with. They can't hear, you can't hear them, or you may want to mute people who are distracting. So all that, so if they cannot hear, you're gonna wanna go to the settings, same with cannot speak. And then muting people, that's going to be in the participants tab. And I'll show you where all of this is on the next slide. Okay, here are the audio settings. So everyone, if you want to direct your attention to your mute button, there should be a little arrow pointing up and it will bring up your audio settings. So especially if you're not used to this, I would highly recommend you do this along with me. So go ahead and open up. You click that little up arrow to open up the settings. You have select a microphone, select a speaker, test speaker, switch to phone audio, and leave computer audio. So as you can see on my screen, I have a few options here. I have the blue snowball mic, I have Realtek audio. So if someone's microphone isn't working, this is your first line of defense. They want to click on that little up arrow and you want to make sure that they have the right mic selected. They might not have a mic. That's an important thing. If they're using a desktop or an unfamiliar computer, then they're just not going to have, they might not have a mic and they just don't realize it. So in that case, you go down to the next option, which is using your phone. So I wouldn't recommend if you can't hear them or they can't talk, but everything else is fine, like they can see everything just fine. I would recommend just calling in on your phone. So they can click switch to phone audio and it will give them a phone number to call. Along with that phone number, it gives them the meeting ID and the participant ID. It's going to be kind of a pain to walk people through, probably. I will admit that, but this is the backup option if they don't have a microphone. Or if their microphones are just completely not working, that is another option. Another option is to download the Zoom app on your phone and do the Zoom class through the phone entirely, meaning with camera and audio, everything through the app. You could do that too. I wouldn't recommend it if everything else is working fine. I would just call in.
One thing you may mention to students that don't have if they have a desktop or something that doesn't have a camera and mic, and it's more than a one-time class, one-time session, if they're going to be participating in a class, they can purchase like on Amazon or, you know, Best Buy or whatever, for a pretty reasonable amount of money. I think they're around, what, $20, Nicole? You can get
Yeah, they're
a mic
not
and
expensive.
video. And usually it's a plug and play. I'm using one right now because I was having trouble with my laptop camera, and I just plugged it into the USB and it just worked automatically. So it's usually not a lot of setup for it, and you know, it's an option for people that don't have their, you know, don't have a mic and video. And usually it's a combined thing. You get the mic and the
Yep. And I'm using a $20 Logitech right now, and it is a combined webcam and microphone. It's easy. I would highly recommend if the student's having trouble with that, you know, you could find something on Amazon pretty cheap. So here there's more audio settings in here, and I have that on the screen there. If you want to open up your audio, the audio settings, you go down to the bottom of the menu. Right here on the screen, you'll see audio settings. You click that and it opens all the settings, but it automatically goes to audio. There you can test the speaker, test the mic, you can change your mic, basically all the stuff that you have on that mini menu. But then there's suppressing background noise and all that stuff. Usually I find that the suppressing background noise, it's so-so. You know, it doesn't really change all that much, to be honest. Even the high background noise, it's not too bad. I tested it out with typing. I couldn't really hear much. So your mic is definitely the thing that has more impact than those little settings there. All right, so we're gonna go to the next one, which is video setting. Oh, Maureen, I see you have your hand raised.
I got to try it. I have, when I take yoga on Zoom, my yoga teacher can either make the customize it for her voice, or when she tries to ring her gong, it doesn't ring. So she sets it on some other setting to get background noise. How do you get more background noise?
So more background noise. So if you go to audio settings and you see on my screen, you'll see it says hi. It says typing and dog barks. So that is the most background noise you can get. If you do auto, it'll usually do low background noise. It'll automatically make it like.
It says that's suppressing. Does that mean it's giving you those?
Yeah, so if you do low, you'd be able to hear faint background noises. Oh, okay. I'm sorry. Yes, you're right. The opposite. Yes. So you want to do low suppression. I'm sorry. My fault. You want to do low suppression on that then. So if you click that, you'll be able to hear that loud gong.
Low suppression. Okay.
Low suppression. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. So now we're going to go into videos. There's this short video I wanted to share. This was around the beginning of the pandemic.
Ready for this?
The video's not playing. We'll go straight here. And here's tech support. Here's tech issues coming. Can you hear the video?
Yeah.
Yep.
Now.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can hear it. Okay, good.
Yeah.
Ready for this?
Here you go.
I just, to be honest, once you are the potato, you can't get it off without leaving Zoom. So you're stuck with me. All right. Let me just check on my.
So I don't know if you all remember at the beginning of the pandemic when people were having all sorts of issues. There's the cat lawyer guy. All kinds of people were having trouble with the filters. And what he says in the video is like, oh, you actually have to exit out of Zoom in order to get rid of the filter. That's not true. You don't have to exit out of Zoom. You just go into your video settings. So I'll show you the video settings in just a second. So some of the issues that you might have on Zoom, hang on one second, I'm gonna end. Okay. So some of the issues that you might have are slow, very delayed, jumpy videos, videos just not working, or filters stuck on, or you have some kind of filter that's stuck. And for all of those issues, you're going to want to go to the, please ignore this picture of me here. I just had to put it there for that purpose. So what the video settings is going to be very much the same as the audio settings, except you're going to go to the camera with the little up arrow, and you'll see the different webcams that you can choose from, or you go to video settings. Another big issue is that people like to put tape over their camera. If you can't see them, ask if they have something over their camera, because sometimes they have it and they don't realize it. So you can change the webcam there. You can do some adjustments there. If it's not working, if nothing is working and their video is just being weird and wonky, just shut off the video. The video takes up a lot of bandwidth, and if the student's entire system is slow, it could be that the video is taking up too much bandwidth. So just shut off the video altogether, and then usually it resolves. There are some other settings that you can play with on their computer that could fix it, but we're not going to go into all that right now. These are just mostly like fixes on the fly. Shutting off the video is usually a pretty quick fix. So here you'll also have the filters. So under the filters, if you open up your video settings and scroll down, or I'm sorry, you see it, you don't even have to go to video settings. It's right there. Choose a video filter or choose a background. You just click on that and it'll show you the list of filters or backgrounds you could choose from. And then just click none if you don't want one. Yep, Maria just changed her background. So I see that. So yeah, if they end up with a potato filter or something like this, all you have to do is click the first filter, which is none, essentially. So, all right, so we've got some questions. Okay, so Maureen, you'd love to know more, so your students would have to shut off their camera. So troubleshooting session. I'll put you down. I'll put one down for troubleshooting. We'll have a poll at the end. All right.
Do you want to mention the maximizing the sound for video piece?
Yes, I will mention that in just a second. I'm seeing some filters going on and off right now. So when you're sharing your screen, you have to, and you're playing a video, you have to make sure to click. So everyone should be able to click the new share button at the bottom of your screen. So everyone go ahead and open that. Don't actually share a screen or anything. At the bottom, you'll see two checkboxes, one for share sound and one for optimize for video clip. If you're going to be sharing a video, click optimize for video clip. If you're just going to be sharing some audio, you could just do share sound. Can everyone see that? Let me know if you can't see that. All right, so we are pretty much at the end. So I'm just going to, we only have a few more slides left. So for getting your screen back, all you have to do is click. If a student says, I can't see anything, the screen is gone, just click the Zoom icon at the bottom of your desktop screen. That should bring everything back up to the front. All right. Let's see. Okay.
Could you show that recovering the screen?
Yes, I think I can. Let me see. Can you all see the very bottom of my screen, the bar that has like my icons and everything?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So if something happens and you lose it, the button you want to click is Zoom. And so what you'll see is your meeting controls when you click on that. Just click on that box and it'll bring it all back up front. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So kind of like how I have it on here, that's how you do it. A quick and easy way to do it. I don't have a Mac, so I'm not 100% sure if this is correct. So you please correct me if this is wrong on the Mac, but I know for Windows, if you have something in full screen, it can be frustrating because then you lose all your control, right? And sometimes it's nice to have something on full screen. So just click that Windows button. That Windows button on your keyboard will bring up your icons on the bottom and you can access everything again. So when all else fails, just hit that little Windows key and you'll have access to all your icons on the bottom. Okay, even if you're in full screen mode. All right, so we are over time. So the last thing I had scheduled here was setting up the class on Zoom. So I can get back to that after I do this last part. If you want to stick around, I can go over setting up a class, but for now, we are going to I'm just going to ask, how do you all feel? What would you like to see a more in-depth session on? So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to launch a poll that has a few options here. If you don't see the option that you want, you can put it into the chat. I was taking notes too, so I do know that there are some other things here that you might want to have help with. So go ahead and put in there. You might be all good with it. You don't need anything else. If you want to see a little bit more on breakout rooms, I know it only gives you one option. I'm just trying to get a feel for how many people want what. So what's the thing you want the most is what I'm asking. If you don't see it in the poll, just put it in the chat. Okay, can I share the transcript of the presentation? Yes, I can. Yep. Okay. All right. I think that everyone's pretty much voted, and it looks like a third of the people who voted. Oh, wait, not yet. Okay. So it seems like about a third of the people have are pretty good and don't need any other help, which is great. Most other people want video sharing, and a couple of people want breakouts here. So I'm gonna just make sure to write this down so I don't forget. But that brings us to the end of the session. Like I said, if you have some extra time, you want to stay on for a little bit, we can kind of go over, I could just briefly go over the video settings or the class settings. So kind of looking at that Zoom page and looking at the settings. But if not, then thank you so much for coming on. Again, thank you for the Florida Department of Education for making this session possible. There will be a survey that will pop up on your screen when you leave the room. What I'd ask is you please take the survey and give us your feedback. We use this feedback to kind of improve our offerings. So yeah, thank you so much. And it looks like video sharing won. So that, but we might do other ones as well. Okay, so for those of you who are still on, let's do a little bit of work on the classroom. Now, this is probably, I would say, one of the more complicated aspects. So let me share my screen here. All right. Can you all see my Zoom room? there anyone who still wants, I just want to make sure that, okay, there do seem to be people who are still interested, right? Nod your head yes if you're still interested. Okay, good. Just making sure. Because some people just kind of hang out on webinars. So here are the, so for the meeting rooms, you're going to want to go into your meeting. So this is going to be your room. You have lots and lots of different options here. So I'll start with the edit. So when you click on edit, after you create your session, you can change some things. First of all, you can change the date, you can change the duration. You can also make it a recurring meeting. So when you click on recurring meeting, it will allow students to use the same link to get into the same room over and over again. So if I were to do this session every week, I can just use the same link and say, this is the link you're going to use. And then I can set it to weekly occurrence, or I can repeat every 5 days, or I could set it by dates. So if I wanted it every Wednesday for 8 weeks, I could click on Wednesday and set it to, I'm sorry. So you repeat, hold on, I'm sorry about that. Okay, so you do like 8 occurrences and it will be on every Wednesday. So you click on the time. So you click on the time here and the dates here, or the number of occurrences. So if you set it like this, it would be every Wednesday for 8 weeks. Or you could do repeat every day and you can end it by a certain date. If you have the paid version, you could do a registration, and don't worry, Greg, I'm going to cancel this. I'm going to cancel all this so I don't accidentally change all this stuff. But you can require that they register ahead of time, which means the link will then be a registration link where they put in their first name, last name, and email address.
Nicole, is there any way to do a custom schedule, like the third Thursday in every month or something like that?
Yeah, so what you could do for that, you could go here and you can click on Thursday, and then you can, well, that's the problem. It's if you click no fixed time, then I think no fixed time.
Okay, I don't want to get.
Yeah, that's where it gets a little complicated. It doesn't let you kind of like choose which times. It's just more like daily, weekly, or you can do a certain number of them up until a certain date. Okay, unfortunately, it doesn't get quite that in depth. What you could do, and what I have done, is you set up the recurring for every single Thursday and then go through and delete the classes. That's what I do. So then some other options here I had already mentioned before. You could pre-assign breakout rooms. You can mute people when they come in. So basically on this page, you can really customize it to what you want your classroom to be before you ever even open up the Zoom app. Then you could go into settings where the real fun begins, and you have all these settings here. If you've never gone into your Zoom settings, I would highly recommend doing it, because there are tons of options that you may not have even thought were, available to you. So you can do all kinds of things here. Let's go to in meeting. So you can automatically save your chat. You can disable direct messages between students. You can allow specific file types to be shared. I mean, you can get really very specific when it comes to getting your meeting ready. So if you find yourself doing the same things over and over again every time you open a Zoom meeting, you record, you may be able to automate some of that stuff. So definitely take a deep dive into these settings and just kind of look to see what you might want to pre-automate before you even start the meeting.
I think one of the more common questions is saving that chat, and you can do that in there, correct?
Yes. Right. So you can save the chat. As a host, you can save the chat. So there's a little symbol that, a little paper symbol that says save chat. You just click that and you can save the chat. I'm pretty sure you can automate that too. I think I just saw it allowed by default. Well, maybe you can't.
It says auto save, meeting chat
Oh, there
auto
it is.
save.
Yeah,
right there.
there it is. And you just turn that on and it'll automatically save your chats. And that's easier than just going in and, you know, remembering to save your chat at the end of a session. So that's essentially Zoom in a nutshell. There's so much more to this platform than I could touch today. There's a lot to it. There's a lot of technical support that you could do. If you learned some basic IT stuff, you could really kind of go, you know, go in depth with helping students if they're having a lot of problems. Are there any questions for me before we finish?
This is good.
Anything else? All right, well, and we'll go ahead and end it then. Thank you all again so much. Don't forget to fill out the evaluation, and I will be sending this PowerPoint to everyone after the session.
Thank you, Nicole.
Okay,
Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks, Nicole.
Thanks, Nicole.